Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining me and everyone for the last reading of the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, which we started nearly a year ago, if not more. And during this term, I was away quite a lot, but Venerable Jamyangla has been kind enough to fill in for me and have read through quite a lot of chapters. So thank you very much, Jamyangla, and everybody for attending regularly with good discipline, dedication. Listening and reading sutras is very, very much recommended by the fully enlightened Buddha. And that's why it's called Thus I've Heard. So thank you very much, everybody, joining me and everyone. Let's start the session as usual with the refuge. The refuge isn't something we start formalities, but it is a reason for doing each teaching session with refuge so that we should always remember to turn to refuge in good times and particularly in very difficult times. It's good times, it's very easy to turn to refuge because we are in a relatively good mood and there is a formality to say the prayers. But in difficult times we really need to seek refuge in the Dharma. Not to righteousness, reaction, and judgment and anger and so on, which lots of people do. They're supposed to have refuge. They're supposed to have many other additional vows on top of refuge, but they don't remember the key practice of the Dharma is turn to Dharma, rely on the Dharma, not on the person. Rely on the meaning, not on the words. Yeah, rely on an ultimate meaning rather than instead of interpret a meaning. Rely on the wisdom rather than the polluted consciousness. These are the things Buddha himself said very clearly. If we are adhering these four alliances, then we are observing refuge. Or if the refuge isn't observed, all other vows are pretty secondary. It's just like a try to have a first floor, second floor, third floor without ground floor. So where the ground floor is collapsed, then what's the point of thinking that you are this, you are that, because you have some vows that you think takes precedent over the refuge vows. It doesn't. I found the text. So with this reminder, thank you. Join your hands at the heart, and I can see our Dharma sisters all the way from New Zealand, and our brother, also Wolfgang and Claire from New Zealand, and Moira from Melbourne, our very keen, dedicated Zoom audience. Thank you for joining us. And so join our hands and do the prayer. Thank you. O yenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Atere Vijay Ladam Bhavacha Ayevendala Ashare Buddha Utuve Enda Buddha Dharma Sangha Atere Vijay Ladam Bhavacha Ayevendala la ajare vada vada and Buddha Dhamma Sangha Pratere Yede Ladame Bhavache Ajendala Prajare Vada Vada. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know apart from happiness and know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know apart from happiness and know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far, according to the intelligence and possession of it, where the Yatanda Dharma agrelo come vego. Yes, indeed, our topic is common vehicles. Common vehicle means that is shared by all Buddhist traditions, with Sravakayanas, Prataka Buddhayanas, or Bodhisattvayana. When we refer to three vehicles, that is the classical term of three vehicles are Sravakayana, Prataka Buddhayana, and Bodhisattvayana. The concept of greater and lesser vehicle was coined much later, I think. Word Mahayana itself is coined much later, probably for whatever reasons. Anyway, all the teachings of the Buddha most of the teachings are shared and accepted by all Buddhists, and particularly this collection of sutras, not just this collection of sutras, but all other sutras, all kinds of. This is only particular collection of sutras are collectively called Sutra of Wise and Foolish. But there are many sutras, many discourses of Buddha. There are into hundreds of sutras, discourses. And so the concept of thus I heard means that people have heard from the Buddha. And then this has been retold by his disciples, such as Mahakashapa and Upali the Barber and Ananda. These three are the main retailers of the sutras, and Ananda in particular was compiler of all the sutras. Sutras usually constitute dialogues between Buddha and his would-be disciples, either kings or merchants or some not so easy to understand human characters like murderers or mass murderers or thieves or whatever. So it ranges from various eminent kings and great many wise people to very ordinary people. So we have already read the first 49 sutras. Tonight we're going to go over the remaining three stories. It's called The Lion with a Firm Mind. Thus I've heard at one time, the Enlightened One was residing in the city of Rajagriha on the Vulture's Peak. So this first sentence captures the perfect teacher, perfect place, and perfect time. And then the third is the perfect audience. What is that? At that time, Devadatta, who constantly harbored evil thought toward the Buddha, was thinking. Because Devadatta is Buddha's uncle's son, so his cousin. And Buddha had quite a few cousins. Ananda was one of them. And Devadatta was a most hardest case to deal with. One of the main arch rival. He was probably jealous of the Buddha because he also become born in the same Shakya clan, but didn't quite enjoy the same stature and recognition and respect. So Devadatta has always, who says, constantly harbored evil thoughts towards the Buddha. Was thinking, I shall do away with the Tathagata and set myself up as Enlightened One. So he didn't want to follow the way of the Tathagata, the Buddha, but he wanted to set himself as the Enlightened One. He spoke to Prince Ajatasattu. Prince Ajatasattu is the prince of the Magadha kingdom. His father is Bimbisara, yeah? And then he went to speak to Ajatasattu to influence him. Prince, it would be well if you were to kill your father and ascend to the throne yourself. It would be well if a new Buddha and a new king were to rule the country properly. Because here the Ajatasattu is suggesting Ajatasattu to go and kill his father Bimbisara, and so that if you don't kill your father, you don't get to become the king. And so he said also, if you have a new king, you might also have a new Buddha. It would be well if a new Buddha and a new king were to rule the countries, because he thinks he should be the Buddha and the Shakyamuni Buddha should be served. Thereupon the Prince Ajatasattu. The word Ajatasattu means enemy prior to the birth, So before Ajatasattu was born, he was already karmically an enemy to his father. Ajata means before birth. Shatru means enemy before birth. Thereupon Prince Ajatasattu murdered his father, usurped the throne. Among the people of the country, this created an ill feeling towards the monks. These days when you go to Bodh Gaya, nearby in Rajgriha, you will see the prison where Rajgir, where the king Ajatasattu was imprisoned and murdered by. So this is not just a story. Actually, there are landmarks which are designated, which are really clearly marked as the Ajatasattu, the prison where Bimbisara, it's called Bimbisara's jail. Among the people of that country, this created an ill feeling towards the monks. When the disciples came to the city to beg, they were given nothing in return with empty alms bowls. So this you can see the kind of adverse effect that it was with the monks. The monks then went to Vulture's Peak and reported to the Buddha, because Vulture's Peak is a little bit high up on the mountain, and they reported this to the Buddha. Lord, Devadatta has led the masters of gifts into sin. They now dislike the monks and refuse to give alms. The Lord then said to Ananda, Ananda, when beings bring forth evil thoughts towards monks who have donned the red robe, they also bring forth evil thoughts concerning Buddha, the Prataka Buddhas and Arhats of the past, present, and future. When they bring forth evil thoughts concerning the Holy One of the three times, the fruits of this sin are inconceivable and inexhaustible. So Shakyamuni Buddha is talking about the terrible, severe consequences of bringing harm to the Sangha. Why is this? It is because the religious robe is the badge of the conquerors of the three times. So meaning those people who wear the Dharma robes are actually bearing the badge of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. Those who shave their hair and beard and put on the dyed religious robe will quickly become liberated from suffering, will stop the outflows, will attain transcendental wisdom, and will become a refuge and protector and savior to all sentient beings. He who brings forth a mind of faith towards one who have become monks and put on the dyed robe will obtain countless virtues. So Buddha himself has spoken the amazing merit that people will be attracted by seeing the presence of Holy Sangha, and also themselves doing those wholesome things towards Sangha will greatly increase the virtue. Formerly, Ananda, through reverently honoring the monks who had donned the dyed religious robes, I become a perfect Buddha. Ananda said, Lord, I beg you to relate how you formerly honored the monks who wore the dyed robe. So Buddha is going to talk about where he created the karma. The Buddha said, Ananda, listen and bear it well in mind. In times long past, countless eons ago, there was a king in his Jambudvipa by the name of Shankara, who ruled over 84,000 lesser kings. At that time, there was no Buddha teaching in the world, and the Prataka Buddhas who lived in the mountains and the forests would fly through the air to aid beings and were often cared for by wild animals. At that time, there lived in the mountain a resplendent gold-haired lion named Firm Mind, who ate only herbs and fruits and harmed no living creature. A certain hunter, seeing this lion, rejoiced and thought, I'm indeed fortunate. I shall kill this lion and take his golden pelt to the king, who will reward me, and I shall be rich. Shaving his hair and beard, he put on the religious robe, concealed his own bow and arrow under his arm, and went to where the lion was. Finding it asleep, he shot it with a poisoned arrow. Lion awoke and sprang to attack, but seeing the religious robe, thought, this man is not long in the world. He will soon be liberated from suffering. Why is this? It is because this robe is the badge of the holy ones of the past, present, and future. If I were to harm him, this would harm the holy ones of the three times. Putting aside all thoughts of killing, he said as he was parting from this life, Allah, Basawa, Swaha. Immediately the sky and earth trembled, and although there were no clouds, rain fell. The gods searched for the cause of this, and when they saw with their divine eye that a hunter had killed a bodhisattva living in the forest in the form of a lion, they let fall a shower of flowers of gods and honored the lion's body. The hunter skinned the lion and took the pelt to King Sankara and asked for a gift in return. The king thought, in the scriptures it is written that an animal with golden hair is either a bodhisattva or one of the great holy ones. It would be not right to give this man a gift. If I were to do this, I would be as guilty as he. He gave the man a trifling present and asked, when you killed the lion, were there unusual signs? The hunter said, when the lion lay dying, it said 8 words. The heavens and earth trembled, and rain came down out of the cloudless sky. The gods also sent down a shower of flowers. When the king heard this was the deeply, he heard this, he was deeply grieved, and faith and reverence arose in his mind. He called together his ministers and ancient wise men and inquired concerning lion's words, but no one could explain them. King then invited a certain wise rishi, or rishi is a saint, by the name of Shyama, who lived in a remote hermitage. When the rishi had come, he asked him the meaning of lion's words. The rishi said, Alala means that only the person who has shaved his hair and beard and puts on the dyed religious robe will quickly liberate from birth and death. Basasa means that those who have shaved their hair and beard and put on the religious robe have drawn near to the wisdom of the holy ones and the bliss of nirvana. Swaha means that those who shave their hair and beards have put on the religious robes are honored by gods and men throughout the three worlds. When the rishi had explained this, the king rejoiced greatly and called together his 84,000 minor kings. He then constructed a carriage of 7 precious jewels, placed the lion's skin on it, and ordered that it be exhibited to all, and honored the flower with flowers and incense. He made a golden casket, placed the lion's skin in it, and enclosed it in a stupa. All those who pondered on the virtues were reborn among the gods when they died. Ananda, because that lion brought forth a mind of virtue towards the men who wore the religious robe, he was born as a Chakravartin monarch for 100,000 kalpas. Because he gave happiness to all beings and performed acts of virtue, he became a Buddha. You must not think of that lion was anyone else. I myself was the lion. The king who honored the lion's skin was reborn as a leader of gods and men throughout the 10 long kalpas, and who created perfect virtue is now the Bodhisattva Maitreya. Shariputra was the rishi. The hunter who killed the lion was Devadatta. So there is an amazing relationship between Shariputra and Devadatta and the Buddha, Devadatta and the Maitreya, these four characters, yeah? You may wonder, when the reason for Buddha is saying this is not to prove that he was special and others were this or that. He doesn't need to prove or tell who was he and who was Shariputra and who was Devadatta. The main point is that we sometimes, if not quite a lot of the times, have lots of people in lives that we don't know what we did to him or what we didn't do, they did to us. So we should not think that someone who has a heart as a Devadatta in your life, or who is a faithful, as a devoted as Shariputra is to you, or as a great companion like Maitreya. You have these kind of people. When you have those people, you may wonder what were you to each other in many lifetimes ago. So you should think like that, because this enables us not to treat others on the face value in this temporary encounter. And they have some kind of unfinished karma between us, to us, or with us, or against us, because we ourselves have not quite come to own our share of karma. So therefore, the purpose of Buddha telling this story, who he was and who Shariputra was, who Devadatta was, who the Maitreya was, is for us to not to see each other in the fixed box kind of names and relationship this life, but what karma we have had in the past that brings us all in the same unit of in the family or groups of friends that you are doing quite a lot of us are doing so many things every night. Quite a lot of these things we are doing this life. What kind of a karmic connection we may have consummated or formed in past, that we have for instance good fortune to know the Dharma and know each other through that. And likewise, you have some in your immediate family circles And in many ways, you love them. At the same time, sometimes you really wish you didn't have such and such amidst your family because they're so difficult. But they are there. Like Devadatta is not there because of his own personal karma. Devadatta has many other karmic conditioning with others as well. And so therefore we shouldn't be too judgmental towards each other in this life, but always think, oh, we have so many unfinished karmic relationships. So we need to be a little bit gentle and thoughtful and non-judgmental, non-reactive, and not angry, of course, and be patient and kind to each other. When the Buddha had spoken thus, the great assembly rejoiced greatly and said, Lord, not understanding the Buddha's great virtue, we do evil deeds even before him. So like that, that's right. So we should be careful of what we do to somebody, in front of somebody, or behind their back. Because you never know what they were in a past life. Maybe they weren't quite Buddhas, but they were definitely special people in our lives, But we repent and confess these evil deeds. Yeah, we should instead go and repent and confess our misdeeds and not think that we haven't done anything wrong. And we should always confess to the Buddha. In great compassion, the Buddha then taught the four truths in accordance with the formal causes of each. So it means then with great compassion, when we say great compassion, he gave something out of his pocket, or the biggest compassionate thing is to give Dharma. Give Dharma, you have to explain the Dharma, so that people really develop knowledge and maturity through the Dharma, which surpasses any material gift. So most compassionate thing is one who really wants to sit and listen and wait and take the commitment and explain the Dharma, four noble truths, in accordance with the formal causes of each, meaning that Buddha would have explained to each Devadatta and Shariputra and so on as to what was the truth of the origin of suffering, what is the suffering, what is the cessation, what is the path. Some became stream winners, by listening to the Buddha, when they say stream winners, meaning their consciousness entered in a stream of thoughts that flow like a river. That wasn't sort of jumpy and chirpy, jumpy, not running through. If you are compassion, you do a lot of love or kindness or forgiveness, your consciousness enters into flowing like a river without being chopped and stopped and stagnated. Stream winners, one's returners, meaning one's returner means the arhats who have only one more life to go. He will only return once in a human being because he has yet to complete. But on that next life, he will definitely will be what we call non-returner, never returners. And then some became arhats. Some brought forth a mind of supreme enlightenment. So this you can see, that's some arhats and then Buddhahood. Then Ananda and four classes of hearers had faith in Buddha's word and rejoiced. So four classes of hearers, meaning those who are stream winners and once returners, non-returners, and arhats. These days people might say, I'm the first year student, second year student, third year student. They may be 10th year student, but still haven't entered the stream. In those days, they talk about not so much of which year, but because some entered into stream straight away in the first sermon, and they never returned. So in those days, they're talking about how good the mind of the disciples were, so pliant and so receptive to understanding these teachings. So that concludes the story number 50. So once again, the firm-minded elephant, firm-minded lion was one of the formal lives of the Buddha. So, during the time when people saw a lion, they would have never thought it was anything but just another lion, So likewise, when we see these days some people, we don't see what they actually are disguised as a cook or as a street sweeper or as a shopkeeper or maybe an orderly at the hospital or who knows, So, we never know what they disguise as themselves. So we should not therefore judge people, and so that they may have deliberately chosen what you call kind of a incognito, incognito. They may have observed the name of a cook or just a manure digger, like in Sachin Kunga Nyingbo's life. His would-be teacher, Shangden Chömbar, was doing manual work as a manure digger. Manure digger means clean people's pit toilet. And and then outwardly he just make a living by doing that. But that was only his outward show of it. Majority called him Aku Shangten Tampa, Aku Shangten Chömbar, uncle. They call him uncle. He was elderly and shabby and always doing such kind of menial job. But yet his heart and mind was highly evolved. So like that also we should see that some people amidst our community, we shouldn't judge by their position or work or worklessness, or maybe some really acting like they're losing their mind, they're really making many things to upset people, but actually they may be the really bodhisattva who come to disguise and test us, teach us, So we should not judge someone as they are lost and they are some danger. There's some cause of unsafety to our things, outwardly it may look like that because they do that kind of thing one too many times. But who knows? Maybe it is only Buddha's only manifesting, and in such capacity can teach us that we should also not count them out. We should never give up even on one sentient beings, particularly those who would be rejected by everyone. That's Devadatta was like that, But Buddha did not disown him. He always said Devadatta was such and such. Devadatta was this. So therefore I think I can see the morale of this story is don't judge each other by what they look or what they do or how they do many repeatedly difficult things, unacceptable things. But who knows what they are? Maybe we have a little learning to do, to not judge people or people's action with action and the people. Maybe we could see what are they really there for us to learn from, and not be too harsh and one-sided of views. And I think there's a lot of teaching there. Okay, let's on. Next story, according to this book, is the second last story. Second last story is 51st, the history of the lizard. Yes, always about animals, all sentient being story. Another sentient being lizard story of it. Thus I've heard one time, the enlightened one was residing at Vulture's Peak in the city of Rajgriha. In India they were said to have 66 cities, and Rajgriha is one of them. Varanasi was another. Shravasti was the third. And then Saketa was another. Champaka was another. So this Saketa and Champaka is difficult to know. These days we don't know where they are. So the two, like Shravasti, Varanasi, they don't, and Rajgiri. Rajgiri is one of them. These three are the most quite prominent historical sites because of association with the Buddha. If you look at that, Varanasi definitely is a big city, old historical city. Shravasti has not really featured as a city now. It is hardly recognizable in Indian map because it doesn't feature as a city. Some big cities not so far from it, like Lucknow and Allahabad, and they are there. But Shravasti is a very small place. But historically, this is a very important place. So. And if you go to city of Rajgir, there's no city in Rajgir. There was just a market. It's a very big market town. It's a sizable town, and I don't know whether it's constitutes a city or not. It certainly hasn't got an airport. It's got a really dusty market, and it's got some reasonably comfortable hotels because Buddhist pilgrims would flock there every winter for 3 months or so. And this Rajgiri is not only a Buddhist sites, but also for the Jains and many other Indian religious traditions also regard Rajgiri as a historically very important. But Varanasi has really become bigger and bigger, more important even today. While it's not one of the biggest cities in India now, but nevertheless it's the most important religious city of India, and where Buddha taught lies on the outskirts of Varanasi, place called Sarnath, the deer park. So it's really good to, when you read his story, sutras, we get to know some places and people and who they are, where these places are, what is this place foremost for. So Rajgriha is the first place after Buddha attained enlightenment, and even he also was there before he attained enlightenment. He spent a lot of time in that area, and later on he went and taught the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra there, and also there are a number of times he taught many sutras at the Venuvana, which is the bamboo grove, which is also on the outskirts of. Not outskirts, but it's in the very village of where Rajgriha today is. So here it says Buddha was dwelling there in Vulture's Peak. Vulture's Peak is considered to be like a hermitage up above the city on top of the mountain. Not very high, steep mountain, but still reasonable climb. It takes about a good 40 minutes to climb from where they have a market. And today there is a cable car journey you can make from there, from the bottom of the hill. The cable car goes all the way to top, higher than Vulture's Peak, and then you can land at the World Peace Pagoda, built by famous Japanese Buddhist Bodhisattva, regarded as Bodhisattva. I met him actually, incredible monk who had championed to build world peace pagodas around the world. And he's built half a dozen in Indian subcontinent, and he's built many other places in the world to promote peace. And in Vulture's, in Rajgriha, his World Peace Pagoda is one of the most prominent sites to visit. And then from there, you climb down for a good 20 minutes, then you go to Vulture's Peak. So it says Vulture's Peak in the city of Rajgriha. At that time, there was a large pond near the city into which the people threw their waste. It's not new, is it? Indians were always good to throw their waste in the pond. In the pond, there lived a large 4-footed lizard, which was similar to a snake. Yeah, and it's a snake but with 4 legs. Lizard had lived in this pond for countless years and undergone endless misery. It's a garbage pit, if you like. Sometimes it stayed in the water, sometimes it came out on the banks. Upon a certain occasion, Buddha and his followers came to the pond, and when the Lord saw the lizard, he asked the monks whether they knew by any reason of what formal cause the lizard was there. None of them knew. They requested Buddha to explain it to them, because the Buddha knows everyone's past if he wanted to share. So this caught the Buddha's attention, and then Buddha said, "Monks, listen well and bear it well in mind. In times gone long past, when the Buddha Vipassana had come to the world to had passed away into Nirvana, there were 4,000 monks who lived in the pure course." So Buddha Vipassana is Namzik in Tibetan, is one of the 6 former Buddhas, you know. There's different traditions of counting who the past Buddhas are. Vipassana is one of them. If you regard Shakyamuni Buddha as the 4th one, then Vipassana is not counted as among them. But if you count more than 4 Buddhas in the past, then Vipassana is the first one. Anyway, they dwelt in a hermitage on the side of a mountain. On the east and west of the hermitage, there were fruit trees and herbs in abundance, and among the trees there was a delightful sight with a spring of sparkling water. At that time, by dint of great exertion, all the monks had attained from the first to the 4th fruits. So many monks have attained the different levels of 4 levels of arhats. Upon a certain occasion, 500 merchants who were going to sea in search of precious gems, because Rajgiri is reasonably not far from Calcutta, modern-day Calcutta. Calcutta is on the east, West Bengal. It's a very famous port. It still is. It's the 3rd most important city in India. It once upon a time was capital of British India. So that's why when they talk about carrying things, my father had a merchant who were going to the sea. They probably is going to Calcutta in search of precious gems, because people went into the islands and they always brought corals and various pearls and shells and gems and all kinds. They lost their way and by chance arrived at a mountain where the monks lived. Seeing the monks' great exertion in coursing, they wished to make offerings and vowed that if they returned without mishap from their sea voyage, they would make gifts to the Sangha. This the Sangha approved in silence. Yet the merchants went to sea, found great treasures, and returning safe and sound, they offered great treasure to the monks. The noble Sangha accepted it and put it in the charge of the monk who managed the Sangha's affairs. Sometime later, when alms supplies had become exhausted, they thought of using the treasure and told the custodian, "Monk, take the treasure given by the merchant and sell it in order to obtain supplies." The monk said, "The treasure was given to me alone, not to you." The Sangha replied, "The treasure was not given to you at all. It was given to the entire assembly and merely entrusted to you for safekeeping." The monk then became angry and said, "Don't you eat until you vomit? And don't claim the treasure to be yours. It isn't. It belongs to me." When the Sangha saw the monk was of an evil mind, and evil mind means greedy, monks not supposed to do that, because greedy, and had given way to anger, they dispersed, each monk going to his own place. because they got very discouraged by this character. Because of that monk's evil intention towards the noble Sangha, when he died, he fell into hell and underwent inconceivable suffering in unspeakable filth for 91 kalpas. Liberated from hell, he was reborn in this filthy pond and suffered for eons. The former Buddha Sikhin came to this pond with his monks, saw the lizard, and explained its former deeds, and did the Buddha Vishwabhu, Kanakavuni, and Kashyapa. And now I, the Buddha Shakyamuni, tell you the history of this lizard, and 1,000 Buddhas of future good eons will come to the banks of this pond and tell the history of this lizard. When the monks had heard his teaching of the Buddha, they were so exceedingly terrified that their hair stood on end. Thereafter, each monk guarded the workings of body, speech, mind, all believed and rejoiced in the Buddha's words. So you can see the moral of the stories is the karmic consequences of why the lizard is born in such a filthy pond for so long time. He had no choice but stuck there. This is a result of one's own evil karma of body, speech, and mind. So the point of Buddha telling this was so that monks should learn to not pass judgment to the lizard or anyone else by their body, speech, mind. So it is more like trying to frighten disciples by knowing the karmic consequences of doing such small evil deeds can be so unsurmountably great. So that's the story of the lizard. And then now this is, I think, the last story. Last story is a short one. This is monk Günther. Thus I've heard one time, the enlightened was residing in the city of Sravasti. So remember we were talking about the Indian 6 cities. So here the Sravasti is mentioned again because that's where the Jethavana monastery was, and in Anathapindika's park. At that time, noble Shariputra would look with his deva eyes. Deva eyes means omniscient eyes. Many arhats have many clairvoyance and clairaudience, and they could really see many things, just like the Buddha. So Shariputra would look with his deva eyes 3 times during the day and 3 times at night to see which beings were ready to be tamed. If he saw that any were ready, he would go and tame them. So he would, they don't want to waste time, on people who are not ready to be tamed. So only when they are ready to be tamed, then Shariputra would go and engage himself doing the teachings. It so happened that one day a dog had followed a group of merchants who were going for a far country to trade, stole a piece of meat from one of the merchants and ate it. See, that's what the dog do. That's why you have to give piece of bone to the dog, so he wouldn't steal your meat. But enraged, the merchant broke the dog's leg and left in the desert to die. So this again is an overreaction for a piece of meat that was stolen, and you killed the whole dog. So these people do this sort of thing. People have no hesitation to put down an animal. If the animal barked or frightened a neighbor or something, then they put down the animal. So this sort of thing, have poor animals got no say. They can do the smallest act, and then they will be punished. Shariputra saw this with his deva eye, that the dog was in misery and starving. He donned his own robes, took his alms bowl, and flew through the air to where the dog was, compassionately fed it. So he deliberately, so this is really real Shariputra. Real disciples of Buddha attend to the comfort of one dog, So that really shows how good a monk, how selfless Shariputra is. Dog gratefully ate the food. Then Shariputra taught it to Supreme Dharma. He taught the Dharma. Shariputra taught the Dharma through his act, through his action. Maybe you might say, how could Shariputra teach Dharma? The dog doesn't understand Dharma. Yeah, but you don't need to teach Dharma necessarily verbally. You can teach Dharma through your action. Actions speak louder, they call it. If you really you treat the dog with a great kindness and compassion, even though the dog might be really ferocious and, very aggressive and so on. So what happened? The dog ate the food, gratefully ate the food, and then Shariputra taught Dharma, and it soon died. The dog died. It was immediately reborn as the son of the Brahmin in the city of Shravasti. See, if you have a daughter or a son, you wouldn't think it was a dog in the past life, do you? But they often are, actually. Dogs are kind of past life children, past life mother, past life. They're not there for a reason. No wonder why people are so committed to be kind to the dog. They could be kinder to the partner or the husband or grandmother, but they are more kinder and willing to do things for their pet animals. And it's because naturally some dog owners feel so indebted to do everything to please the dog. They say it's a very good friend, and dogs are a very good friend too. So, sometime later, when Shariputra was begging alms, came at the Brahmin's door. Now, Shariputra came to the door of the Brahmin. Brahmin asked why he was alone, had no companion. The Brahmin asked why is the Venerable Shariputra is not accompanied by caretakers or attendant or whatever. He said, why have you come alone? Shariputra said that he had no companion, and that if a Brahmin had a son, he would be glad if he gave him to him. So Shariputra said that I had no friend, but if you have a son, give it to me. The Brahmin said, I do have a son by the name of Kunte. Now he's too young to become a monk, but when he grows older, I shall give it to him, give it to you. So the family actually agreed to offer the boy to Shariputra. Shariputra returned to Jetavana Grove, but remembered the Brahmin's words. 7 years later again, he went to the Brahmin's house and asked for the boy. Brahmin gave his son to him. Shariputra took the boy to the Jetavana Grove, ordained him, and when he had taught him the Supreme Dharma, the boy's mind was liberated and he attained the bliss of an arhat. See, Shariputra was so influential to give teaching to this young monk and a young boy, and he became an arhat. He then became endowed with 5 powers and grew perfect in the wisdom. The boy who had have the power of diligence, mindfulness, and introspection, faith, and diligence. So these are 5 powers. These are powerful. If you have faith, this is incredible. People who feel really powerless are usually lack one of those powers. Their diligence lacking, their mindfulness lacking, their introspection lacking, their faith is lacking, and their meditation is lacking. If these 5 are there, they have the 5 powers. Grew perfect in wisdom. Later, when he investigated what deeds he had done in the former lifetime, to be able to meet the holy Shariputra and become a monk, he saw through the power of knowledge that he had been a dog. He saw that his present teacher Shariputra had taught him the Dharma, and because of this he had now obtained a human body and attained bliss. Because as a dog, Shariputra taught the Dharma, So when he is born as a human being, he's just continuing the good character and good karmic connection that he enjoyed in the past. Seeing this, he rejoiced and thought, I have been liberated from suffering through this teacher's grace. Out of respect for the teacher and in gratitude, I shall never leave him or cease to honor him in this life. Then Ananda said to the Buddha, Lord, what evil deeds did this monk do in the former life to be born as a doll? Buddha said, Ananda, in times long past, during the time of Buddha Kashyapa, there was a young monk who had a beautiful voice and all rejoiced when he chanted the hymns of praise. There was also an old monk who was an arhat who had a very poor voice and chanted badly. One day the young monk who, with the beautiful voice, insulated, insulted maybe, insulted, don't you think? Insulated, insulted, isn't it? Insulted the old man, saying, Oh monk, your voice sounds like a dog barking. the old monk said, Monk, do you know who I am? The young monk said, Yes, you are a Stavira under the Buddha Kashyapa. When the elder monk said, I am an arhat endowed with all the virtues, younger monk was afraid, regretted that what he had said, and asked for forgiveness. Although the old monk wished him well and said, May your faults be purified, that monk was reborn as a dog for 500 lifetimes. 500 lifetimes. Then because he became a monk and kept the precept, he has met me and totally liberated. See, that's this talking about calling someone one name once, you will be reborn as a dog 500 times. Can you believe it? So therefore, never overlook the karmic consequences of what we do, say, and think. When the Buddha had spoken thus, Ananda and great assembly believed and rejoiced. So that concludes all the 52 stories. 52, isn't it? 52. Yeah, 52 stories. Some have 51. This is 51 stories. And let me read the colophon on this. One of the great treasures of Buddhist literature, Don Zanglun, or Sutra Wise and Foolish, as it is known to the Mongols. The text was translated through Mongolian from Tibetan as the ocean of narratives. It is one of the most interesting, enjoyable, readable Buddhist scriptures. For centuries, it has been an inexhaustible source of inspiration, instruction, and pleasure for all who have been able to read it. The history of these unusual scriptures is still uncertain. Legend has it that the tales were heard in Khotan by Chinese monks. Because Khotan is a Central Asian republic, maybe present-day Uyghur, and they translated them from maybe Sanskrit by Chinese monks who translated them. But actually, it is said that Tibetan monks who translated, Tibetan monk named Choedak who translated from Khotanese into Chinese, from Chinese into Tibetan, and of course it would be Khotanese language is not the original language, would have been translated from Sanskrit. Who translated them into Chinese, from which you translated into Tibetan, then into Mongolian and Oirat. So you can see it has gone through 4 or 5 different translations. So it is said that this was not translated into Tibetan. There are quite a few handful of Buddhist sutras that was not translated from Sanskrit into Tibetan, but was translated from Chinese into Tibetan. Respect must be given to our Chinese monks who actually traveled to India in early 2nd century onwards, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and they are definitely 500 or more years senior in translating Buddhism from Sanskrit into Chinese. And so not all the Tibetan Buddhist canon and translations are from in Sanskrit, even though Tibetans say that. But when you open and read it, quite a few of them, like this one, was translated from the Chinese, you know. So Tibetan has unfortunately got some kind of prejudice against Chinese, which is very unfortunate. They should correct that by saying that actually it is Chinese who has just as positive influence on the Tibetans to be introduced to Buddhism, in spite of the historical political difficulties between the two countries. The actual contribution of Chinese Buddhist monks and Chinese Buddhist emperors is very strongly felt even today. The narratives are jatakas. Jataka means birth stories. Birth story means not just one birth, but life before that. So Jataka Mala is called garland of Jataka Malas. Jataka Mala stories are as many as 6 books and as many as 170 plus stories. And these 51 are all, you can see, are collectively chosen and compiled as one book, and therefore they gave the collective title called Wise and Foolish, because it always gives the contrast between the wise and foolish. And if you know of the severity of the foolishness, and then you may not repeat it so many times, but instead take up the role of how to be wise. So these Jataka Mala stories are not only told in Sinhalese, in Pali and in Sanskrit and Chinese, Khotanese, Japanese, Cambodian, and then you have Laotian, you have Vietnamese, and some of these are printed, carved in reliefs. If you go to Borobudur, and if you go to Ajanta and Ellora, some very ancient Buddhist sites, as early as 2nd century BC, and as recent as 8th century AD, like in Borobudur. If you go to Borobudur in Indonesia, they have huge Buddhist reliefs. And all those reliefs are these stories. These stories of Jataka Mala stories, some may be from the Sutra Wise and Foolish, they're all depicted there. Like the feeding the hungry tigers comes, or there is the second one, I think, second or third one in this reading, and now the Tibetan Buddhists actually have very special place in outside Kathmandu, where that Buddha, as a Mahasattva, as a Bodhisattva Mahasattva, fed his body to the hungry tigers. So there is actually a site where Buddha gave. The young Mahasattva fed his body to the hungry tigers in order to save the 5 young cubs from dying of starvation. So these kind of stories are not just to entertaining people, but actually they are art, they are archaeology, they are the culture, they are the poetry, they are the kind of the very messages of Buddha's teachings and law of karma is woven in each of these stories. So therefore he says, the narrative like Jatakas or birth stories, tracing the causes of present tragedy. Yeah, if you have particular things, tragedies in your life, they are not unfortunate kind of accidents or occurrences, but you have actually created those causes. At the same time, if you have many wonderful things, great victories, joy, health, happiness, peace, harmony, and wealth, and trust, and prosperity, and friendship. If you have these things, don't think you are too smart or you did all this in this life. No, it has much more causes you have created in the former life. So you should really acknowledge that. So it says, causes of present tragedy in human lives to events which took place in former lifetimes. Theme of each narrative is the same: the tragedy of human condition, the reason for this tragedy, and the possibility of transcending it. Yeah. But unlike Greek tragedy, Buddhist tragedy is never an end in itself. A catharsis, but a call to transcend that which can be transcended, and but need not be endless injured. Yeah, people we meet in Sutra of Wise and Foolish, although supposedly living in India of the Buddha's time, might also be living at present in New York City, a rural town in Leningrad, and the problem they are facing, and the same problem the men have had faced always and everywhere, like what's going on today in some world conflicts. They were not just new; they have kind of unfinished karma from long way back. Long way back. So herein lies the timeless appeal of this profound Buddhist scripture. So this is how the editor is summing up the actual Sutra of Wise and Foolish. So of course we have to be kind to ourselves and gentle towards others, and not be foolish, as we sometimes have been. And even you might have a half a dozen foolish people who totally influence your way of thinking, and they think they're all wise, but all they become equally together crook and angry. And so they must have a pact formed in the past that they have to suffer each other by making each other to go in that way. So, and others are exactly opposite. You form a liaison with some friends, and which has always been positive, and which has kept you, out of misery or out of mischief, because you have learned to how to avoid yourself to falling into traps of somebody else's curses and so on. So when one is wise, and of course one doesn't go under the fall influence of the foolish. If one is not, you can see quite a lot of people fall under the spell of another foolish person, and through his or her influence, they have collectively created a karma. They couldn't see anything but through their judgmental angle, or righteous angle, or angry, or negative, or non-compromising way. And so these are the sort of ways people think they are wise, but actually they're very, very foolish. They think they have right. They know what's right and what is wrong, but all they got is the consequences of their righteousness, which has made themselves become very, very a kind of a suffering they themselves know because of their own action. And we always have the ability to exercise restraint for ourselves, not to go to the foolish way, because maybe it's your father or mother or a brother or uncle with whom you are having difficulty. But these are not difficulty that they are like that to you, but you have been equally difficult to them in the past, maybe 500 times. And now they're manifesting that way. So it's really important to not to bash or reject or each other on the basis of some rough rides in certain incident in life, but see them as what one has to own and accept those law of causes and conditions. We may never remember why we deserve such and such, because when we do have some good things happen, we definitely believe I must have done some good, But when some awful things happen, we think, why me, What did I do to deserve this? And we become so foolish, But actually, if you're wise, you should just, all the magic tragedies that happen in your life, you should be wise enough to accept them. Oh, I must have myself unconsciously have done such deeds onto other people, and now they have come to ripen upon me. And so it's not the severity of the tragedy that is severe to you, but the wisdom to accept them and transcend them, This is the point of this story, is so that we learn to transcend them. We learn to put a stop so that this does not snowball into next life or life thereafter. So we actually learn to say, okay, these difficulties are if you accept it, you can transcend it, and so you can stop it from. So therefore, it's a good idea to practice patience, practice humility, accept the blames, even if you don't really think you'd have done terribly that much to deserve all the blaming, but just accept it. This too will enable the wisdom. The wise decision is take on the blames, take on the hardships, challenges. Bodhisattvas are courageous and daring ones who you can never accept enough faults anyway, enough blames. You can never take too much. There's no danger of us taking lots of blames anyway. But occasionally, if you feel like to be a little bit wiser than normal, then every time you do take, you have transcended a future, what would have been a big burden for your future time ahead. So being able to do that would mean that we not only enjoyed and learned from listening to the reading of the Sutra Wise and Foolish, that we also have stopped from staying foolish, and starting to learn to become wise and kind and gentle towards them, and then maybe see them as some bodhisattvas, see them as your past mothers, and see them as someone who you karmically owe a lot, and be patient with them, be respectful to them, and be harmonious with them. And let the hardship that you have to go through that to burn your karmic calories, and so then you would have say, I heard that story in the Sutra Wise and Foolish, but what has its relevance to me, and then try to employ some of the pointings of the teachings that we should take on board. So with this, we have concluded. Everyone, thank you very much for your patience and a really true friendship and dedication in listening to this for a long period of time, maybe a bit over four terms. And of course, this kind of dedication, reading the sutra. And sometimes nowadays they have more ceremonial chanting of the sutras. People all go and make a big announcement for 5 or 10 days that they have some of the senior monks sitting on the dais and chanting the sutra. Everybody's just praying in, maybe the sutras are chanted in Pali. Majority of the devotees don't know a word of Pali. Maybe they know a little bit, but they know they are lending their ear to a good, and so they know their hearing organ will be blessed by listening to them, but they still don't understand a thing, let alone knowing who, where, what it's about, when it is, and who were there, what it's all about. So if you really read the sutra, like the Sutra Wise Foolish, which we have, it talks about people, it talks about places and time and individuals and what happened. And why this story is told. What relevance does it have to each of us? And so that's why it is so meritorious. So thank you very much, everyone. We will now conclude here with the dedication of merits. Asama Tabadra de la Walawe Awade Zamba Ajada de Gade Mere Zalambo de Jeda Teba Veranaya Daza Where has been Bomejang Freely Vedadi Generation.
So thank you, Rinpoche, on behalf of your students, both in person here and online, Zoom and later on Facebook and so forth, for these teachings on Sutra of the Wise and Foolish. Thank you also to our hardworking committee, technical team, and patrons and sponsors for helping make these teachings available. Thank you all for your attendance and company. As you know, we follow the academic year, so we will probably be reconvening around February next year. Please keep an eye on our website as to when our next term begins. And Rinpoche, we look forward to finding out the topic of next year's classes. I hope you all have some good Dharma reading prepared for over the summer holidays. If not, perhaps you'd like to read an old favourite of yours. And we look forward to seeing you all in the new year when we'll be streaming from our new temple in Canberra. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jamila. Yeah, I would just like to say that today is a conclusion of not only this year's fourth term, but also the series of teachings that we've been doing on Zoom, either from my home or from our center in Holder. But as of tomorrow onwards, our center in Holder is being packed up and being moved to the new premises. So we will be streaming the new term teachings, of course, from there. But probably we will be able to stream you some things maybe just even before the formal terms begin, because once the temple's really reasonably furnished and set up, we will start having some sessions like the Wednesday night practices. We've been having mostly on Zoom. We will still have on Zoom, but we would like to encourage people to come in person, attend in person at the temple. When you have such a beautiful temple, people should make a habit to attend those sessions. Of course, all the teachings like this, as well as practice, because that sanctifies, consecrates the temple. It benefits the people. They know that the temple is active because people are coming and doing things as a place of meditation and prayer in person, because while we may not have monastics living there, but if there are devotee practitioners come and listen, readings, helping each other, maintaining and running the activities there, we are encouraging people to do that. So as many of you are doing that by maintaining your group wherever you are and feeling part of it. So with this, we will say goodbye and have a happy festive seasons and many greetings. Thank you very much.